A fucking motorcycle has to drive by right when I hit record, of course. Okay.
Oh yeah, I apologize. We just like our Yoshi's episode. As soon as we started Yoshi's story last night, a train went by.
Of course,
So
naturally.
I'll try to mute if stuff happens, but yeah, you might have to cut some stuff out for me.
That's fine. That's fine if it happens. Okay.
Okay.
You're now warping in to Find Time.
Hello, party people. Hello, Zelda people. Hello, adventure people. It's your boy Dre, and I'm here with a Zelda pervert from Flashback 64. His name is Goo. What up, Gooey?
You caught me. I'm a Zelda pervert. Most definitely.
Yes, you are. That's why I had you on. Thanks for joining me finally on Find Time.
Thank you. Yeah, I am so excited to be on. I love the show, and
thanks.
Honestly, it's great to be here because Zelda, I feel like, I'm not an expert, but I feel like I know a lot about Zelda. And so much of the premise of a lot of the podcasting I do with you or a lot of our friends is like, hey, I'm a dumbass, like, tell me about this game. But it feels good, like, I can come on here and I feel like I can actually hold my own. I know a little bit about Zelda, so...
Good. I mean, look, you were the one I thought of. I've been wanting to cover this game for a long time on here in the same manner that we covered another game a few years ago. So anyone who's been with us for a while, and thank you if you have, you may remember very late 2022, me and my pal Vin, we did an episode on Mega Man and Bass because it's a game that we both love, that also has a weird reputation and gets a lot of hate too. And when we kind of explored the reasons why that was, but also we just talked about why we love the game, and then we kind of defended it against its criticisms. And so I kind of wanted to do the same thing with Zelda 2 with you here. I wanted to talk about why we love this game, because we both do, and then after that talk about the things people say about it and call them a bunch of names. What do you say?
That sounds good to me. I think it's I think I'm in a good position to do that because I think that this is a game that's been a grower for me over the years. Like
really.
Yeah, like I think when I first, I think we're going to talk about our history with it, but
go for it. Go for it now.
So I mean, I have always been a Zelda fan. My grandfather was even a Zelda fan. So like I have memories of playing the original game and A Link to the Past. He had both and just like not getting very far because I was a little kid. I didn't even know what I was doing. But it was definitely entrancing, like the world of Hyrule. It was like so magical to me as a kid, even if I was just wandering around Link's house and getting killed and starting over, but not Zelda 2. I grew up definitely a little bit after I had an NES growing up, but I grew up after like, the Super Nintendo was already out. So I think I might've had Zelda 2, but I don't think it was one I played a lot. But then it was really like the N64 era and the Game Boy, Link's Awakening and Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Those were kind of the three that really solidified me as a fan.
Gotcha.
And then it wasn't until really the collector's edition on GameCube where I really that's actually what I first beat Zelda 2 on, which was a pain in the ass because the D-pad on the GameCube controller sucks so bad.
I don't really mind it too much. I'm not a person who minds that D-pad too much. I never really have, but I think I'm a weirdo about that because like a lot of people hate it and I get it, rightfully so. I'll tell you what though, that collector's edition on GameCube, that's the first time I beat Zelda 2. As well.
Okay. Nice.
Because this game came out when I was 6. I wasn't good enough to beat that game.
Yeah, that's true.
It was way too hard for me, right? So I came back to that much later in life, and I actually did beat that game. I got really far though when I was a kid. I remember doing I think I got to like the 6th palace actually. Like I
Wow,
got to
that's
like the
sweet.
final. I never got to like the final palace or anything, but I got pretty far. After some really long persistence of trying over and over. So, I didn't quite beat it, but I don't, even if I beat that palace, I don't think I would have even gotten to the final palace, let alone like figured my way through there. So, yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
I beat it when I was 21 years old, not 6.
I think that's probably about when I like actually beat it, because I played it on collector's edition, and I might be able to speak for like the criticisms that people give to it, because I sort of, I don't know if I felt that when I played, but I didn't appreciate
Mm-hmm.
all that was good about the game. And so I think it wasn't until like a decade after it came out where I actually did beat it on collector's edition, when I was
Oh,
probably like
okay.
20 years old, I would say. And so
Okay.
that was a good feeling though when I finally did it. And since then, every time I've played it since, it warms up. Like I get more into it every time. Like I find something new to love about it. And yeah, it's a great game.
Yeah, it is one of those games for me that it's true. Every time I play it, I like something more. I like it more now than I ever have. And it's true
Same.
because it's like, this is the thing. Like, when you're a kid, oh, you love everything when you're a kid, right? And then you're an adult and it's like, I see the flaws. I've always seen the flaws in Zelda 2. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a perfect game by any means. But at the same time, like, I think some of the things people say about it are fucking ridiculous. So like, I just, I really want to go over that stuff. As for me, I mean, like, this was actually the first Zelda game I ever played was Zelda 2. I don't think I had played the original yet. My cousin just had Zelda 2. I didn't have any Zelda games. He is, I said was, as if he's dead. He is alive, I promise. He's
I
3 years
believe you.
older than me, so he had like some stuff that was a bit more advanced than, I had. And but yeah, I had both Zeldas growing up at some point, and I played a lot of them. I loved Link to the Past. Oh, are you old enough to remember when the early nomenclature for Link to the Past was Zelda 3? You ever hear
No,
anyone call it that?
I'm aware of it, but like A Link to the Past for me, that's another one that it came out. I was like 1 when it came out, so it's just always
Okay.
been that for me.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, early, kind of like before it came out, it was like, ooh, because it was the third Zelda. Of course you're going to call it Zelda 3, right? The last one was
Mhm.
called Zelda 2, right? So, but yeah, so I really fell in love with that game. I loved Link's Awakening. Then Ocarina happens. And I'm not happy. I don't think I need to do
Mm-hmm.
yet another podcast why I don't like that game. But like, that's not a game I love and I will never love. Majora's Mask is fine. It's
All
not a
right.
game I'm in love with, but it's like, it's good. I shouldn't say it's fine. That's a little harsh. It's good, right? I was like,
Mhm.
okay, Zelda can still do good things. Wind Waker blew me away. Loved it. Twilight Princess, pretty good. Skyward Sword, yuck. Right. So like, I'm kind of up and down with Zelda
uh,
over these next 15 years. Right. I'm like, kind of, some are good, some are not so good. Those DS games can take a hike, right? Minish Cap, I love it, right? So it's very up and down for me, right? But Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom just like reaffirmed everything I loved about Zelda. I love those games so much. Those are both like an A plus 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 plus. I think those
I'm
games are the absolute best.
I'm totally with you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I've had kind of a up and down relationship with Zelda, but like the first like 4 games, yeah, I loved them to death. I was a Zelda person for sure.
Mm. Yeah, for me those games like the GameCube and Wii era, that was like as I was, becoming a teen and like really getting into games, and I loved those games pretty much all of them when I first played them. I'm going in as a massive fan already,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going in and they're like there's something great about all of them to me, and like I play them and they blow me away, but they're almost the opposite, where the more I replay them, like I like them less. I feel like they're more fun as like an experience. There's
Mm-hmm.
there's more story going on, and a lot more like gimmicks and pomp and circumstance and stuff like that. But like these older games, or like the 2D ones, like I found as I've become like the type of Zelda pervert who replays these games over and over, I
Yeah.
like to replay those ones much more than like Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword.
Twilight Princess can slog a bit. I think that's what I remember from it. I beat the
Yeah.
game. Really did enjoy it. There was some really cool shit in that game, but like the traversal, like the overworld just is not, I'm sorry, it's just not Wind Waker at all. Like that's why, and here's the thing, I've never gone back to Wind Waker. I'm just kind of remembering my feelings at the time. I just think like Wind Waker's, I mean, shit, I could probably do the same kind of episode on that. The sailing is so boring and shit like that. It's like, shut up. Are you dumb? Get away. I'm sorry. See, I'm already being mean. I'm being mean about another game that we're not even talking about today.
Yeah, Ocarina of Time's catching strays, Wind Waker's catching strays, like or haters of Wind Waker catching strays.
Yeah, haters of Wind Waker. I've never, and were you old enough to remember people calling Wind Waker Zelda, like cell shading, like CELDA? Do you remember that shit?
A little bit in like the years following. That's like when I really started to get more into like reading stuff online and stuff like that. Like that was probably the era, but it was more like in the lead up to Twilight Princess, where like that I realized people felt that way, and I don't think I ever really had any distaste for the art style or anything.
Yeah, well, that was my forum days, so I heard it all. Oh my god, it was enough. Like that was a time. Anyway, so I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad we talked about establishing ourselves as the kind of Zelda fans, Zelda perverts rather, that we are. And let's talk about Zelda 2. All right, there's a million places we could start with Zelda 2, I guess. You can start wherever, but like maybe this is a good place to start because this is something obviously I think about retroactively about Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link on Nintendo Entertainment System and Famicom Disk System, is that this has to be the most traditionally RPG a Zelda game has ever been, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because you have experience points, you level up, you have spells, god damn it. Like you have like real towns and NPCs. I'm not saying no other Zelda game has towns, but this game makes a point of it,
Mm-hmm.
And is that something you've ever really thought about? Because it's something that's like the last few years I've actually thought about.
Oh, big time. Yeah, that's probably like one of the most, other than the side scrolling nature of it, it's probably like the most distinct thing about it. I mean, other Zelda games have like, they'll have like a magic meter or something, but it's nothing like, and you might cast like a what is it, Din's Fire or something like that, but it doesn't feel like doing a spell in an RPG, and obviously like leveling up, that's not something you ever really do in a Zelda game. It's really more, I mean, your health with the heart containers, but yeah, nothing to the degree like this, where it's like experience going into strengthening just Link's raw power.
Yeah, because every other game is like you get the better sword or you get the new shield or whatever, and that's how you like quote unquote level up. This game just straight up has those things in number form, which it's funny because like I don't know if you remember this kind of talk back in the day, but like Zelda was always considered, Nintendo doesn't need Final Fantasy or whatever. They have Zelda. And it's like, well, Zelda isn't an RPG,
no.
But like maybe if you were, of a certain, I was a little young to think of it this way, but maybe if you were an older person than me at this time, you may think of Zelda as one just because this second game really kind of is that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think it's, for me, like I don't play a ton of RPGs. Not that I have anything like against them, but like for me, like it's not immediately like what I'm looking for in a Zelda game, but I think it works really well in this game, and I think I'd be down to seeing something like that return in a similar style of game for sure.
I would love that. I mean, they don't even necessarily have to do like a side-scrolling thing like this again. They could just if they went back to some of these elements, I would be overjoyed. I think what I actually really want is like spells. More than like the experience points and leveling up, I would love if Link had like real spells. I think that would be interesting. But
yeah, like if I feel like they've tried to like give you like abilities and stuff, but and I think it's because I think they're trying to like I think of in A Link Between Worlds, they give you just like a meter that's for everything, for using items and for whatever. I feel like they're trying to like streamline everything, so I feel like that's something that you might not see from Nintendo necessarily in a Zelda game, but I don't know. I feel like they have been more willing lately to like go outside of the box with Zelda and like do weird things, you know. So
I really hope so. I have never played A Link Between Worlds because I'm afraid it'll piss me off. I just feel like it's a game that'll piss me off. So I just
don't even know why.
I don't know. I've always had a really bad feeling about that game. I should just sit down and I don't know if they ever do like a Switch 2 version or something. I'll definitely play it, I guess.
I'd be curious. Yeah, what you think? Because it's definitely like a streamlined version of like A Link to the Past, you know.
Yeah, when anybody says that word streamlined, I get real scared. So like I'm like, oh, we're gonna streamline we're gonna QOL the fun out of this game. Let me tell you. But do you have anything significant to say about the story of Zelda 2? I mean, I think see, you know, that's why I love talking about a game that everyone knows. We don't really have to explain this. Everyone's played Zelda 2. If you're listening to the show, you have played Zelda 2,
right?
Okay, like. Let's get real, right? So we don't really have to explain it to everybody, but like, do you have anything to say in that regard? You're the Zelda pervert. The only thing I know is like Zelda sleeping because reasons.
Well, so yeah, I am, but I'm also the type I'm very anti, like, I like thinking about like the lore and the stories because they're fun, but like, I'm very anti like taking it seriously like at all, you know.
Like the Zelda timeline shit that I hate.
Yeah, it definitely, or like I feel like with this game it's actually fun because it's a little bonkers, because like it's a direct, you know, sequel to the first game, and it's a couple years later and they're like, yeah, you saved Zelda, now here's a different Zelda who's been sleeping. And I don't know if they say where the other Zelda is that you saved, but they're like, this is a different Zelda who's asleep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did not know this is like a different Zelda. That's crazy.
So the manual actually, a lot of the story is like this backstory, which they do this a lot in Zelda, of something that happened like ages ago or whatever. And they get into the story about this evil prince who I don't even remember. He teamed up with, it's all in the manual. He teamed up with the magician and they put a spell on Princess Zelda. It's actually The Legend of Zelda, because they put a like sleeping spell on Princess Zelda, and then the king decrees like, okay, from here on out, all the princesses must be named Zelda. So that's why, that's the lore for the Zelda series as to why.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That you're right. That is bonkers. What the hell is going on?
Also, one thing I like about this game is that it actually introduces like the third Triforce to the series that makes up the whole Zelda logo. In the original game, Ganon he's got the Triforce of Power, and Zelda, you have to go to all the dungeons to collect the shards of the Triforce of Wisdom. And then you show up at the end, and at the end, you know, Link and Zelda are both holding up the Triforce. Well, in this one, they go, Link, there's a third piece of there's a third Triforce, the Triforce of Courage. Your ass has got to go get that. And so that's
you're right. I never thought about the original game does not really have like a third Triforce.
Yeah, so this game introduces the Zelda naming convention and the third Triforce to the lore. So it actually does add a lot to the Zelda lore, you know.
Isn't there some weird shit about blood? Like they have to spill Link's blood on the see, that's the thing I remember. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. I feel like, did I read that in the manual, or is that like some...
I think so. I believe it's, so, because they've got when you kill Ganon in the first game, he's left in a pile of ashes, which I guess someone swept up or something. And they're like, "Yep, we need to in order to revive him, Link needs to spill. We need to kill Link and spill his blood on Ganon's ashes to revive him."
That's so weird.
It's
Why
ridiculous.
Link? That is ridiculous.
I don't remember. It's probably something to do with the Triforce or something. Yeah.
Impa is involved somehow, right? I feel like Impa's name, maybe not.
I think she might be the one who, like the first game, gives him the lowdown, maybe in the manual. I can't remember now, but yeah. In terms of the story in the game, it's just you got to go place the crystals get the crystals to open up to the palace to get the Triforce.
That's the thing I thought was weird. You already have the crystals. You have the 6 crystals, and then you go to each of the 6 palaces and put the crystal in place. Usually in a game, they make you go around the palace and get the crystals from each thing and then do whatever.
I never thought of that.
You already have them, and then you just put them in place. It's kind of weird, but
go put them back. Yeah.
Yeah. It's even in your inventory when you pause. You see how many crystals you have left.
Like you have the crystals in your menu.
Yeah, because it's like it says lives and then keys and then like crystals.
And so it counts down?
Yeah, it counts down.
Wow,
you have 6 when you start the game.
I honestly never even look at that. That's amazing.
Yeah. I only noticed that after being a bored kid and looking at everything in the menu a million times. Yeah, that's just like something I picked up on. It's like, oh, okay, I did that. Now I have 5. I did the first thing. Now I have 5 crystals.
That's sick. I love that. Okay. Yeah. See, another thing I learned that I love about it.
It's great. The thing, you know what I always liked, and even when I was a kid, I love that you start the game or start any, like, after a game over, you start with your 3 lives in the temple there with the sleeping Zelda, the one and only sleeping Zelda. Because, like, that always, I don't know, I love stuff like that in games that reminds you of your quest, I guess is the best way to put it. And I really thought that was effective. I mean, it's so effective that Shadow of the Colossus like completely ripped it off. Like, like that's that entire game. I don't know if you ever played that, but like
I'm familiar with that aspect.
You
part
should,
of it, yeah.
You will love that game. Play like the PS4 version or something, like the remake, remaster, whatever they want to call it. It is incredible. Please don't play the PS2 original. It runs in the teens in the frame rate. Do not do it. I mean, look, they did the best they could at the time, but just trust me, play like the new version.
Okay. This is one of the cases where I'll take your advice and not play the original, because people always do that. Don't play the original, but it's usually for some dumb reason.
Do not play. Trust me, in this case, the remake supersedes the original completely. It's just one of those situations. So yeah, but no, in that game, there is a sleeping princess, and she is on a pedestal exactly like Zelda 2. And you start after you beat a Colossus, you start there again. So you see her every time you go back out in the world. And I was like, that has to be a direct reference. That has to be. Anyway,
the game is good at there's a couple parts like that where it's good at having like a big like moment that is like the visual of it looks so like memorable. Like even just like the title screen is like that. Start screen is always like that. When you open up the Great Palace at the end and the force field comes up, like it is a very like it's cinema, you know.
It really is. It truly is. I'm surprised I didn't sneak in. I know they would do this in Link's Awakening, sneak in kind of like the full picture, like sprite art. You know?
Oh yeah, I love
like
that.
A couple of those. Maybe they couldn't. I know a Famicom disc system like disc is like very, very small, like much smaller than a cartridge. You really can't fit much on there. So maybe, I don't know, they did a lot of improvements for our version. I figured maybe, I don't know, that's something they could slip in. Yeah, it seems like it would have fit, right? But anyway, I want to talk about Overworld and like exploration real quick, because this is the reason why I love the game the way I do. It's easily the number one reason, because in terms of like 8-bit explorable side-scrolling spaces, you know, whether you're talking about a Rygar or Metroid even, or anything like that, Zelda 2 has like no equal for me. Zelda 2 is the absolute peak. And again, I've played a lot of these. Castlevania 2, Goonies 2 for NES. That was a game I played a lot, or Zillion for Master System. My cousin had a Master System, so I played a lot of Zillion. Shout out to anyone who knows what that is.
No idea.
Like, any of those types of games. Like, Rygar is like my favorite NES game of all time, but like Zelda 2 has to be right there. Like, every single screen in Zelda 2 is fun. Everything. You're always fighting something or making a jump or you're managing a resource or you're always being engaged, always. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the difficulty being like perfect in this game, where it's like, it's tough and it'll kick your ass, but it's also like very learnable. And like, once you understand what the game wants from you, you can really like rise to that occasion. It never feels overbearing or, oh man, I don't think I can do this. Like even if you get lost, there are like sections with like infinitely respawning enemies that just like keep happening as you're like going forward or whatever direction you're going. So like, I just think there's nothing like it, man. That's the main reason why Zelda 2 is one of my favorites. Just the actual amount of like traversal and discovery, like both those things you get to do is crazy fun.
That's like one thing at first when I played it, I don't think I liked this aspect so much, but like now it's one thing that again I like more and more, is that the perspective change of like the overworld and like going into certain screens where it like goes into a side scrolling segment. Mm-hmm. And there's always that for me, like even though I've played it, there's that feeling of like, okay, what's in that patch of forest, what can I find there and what's it going to look like? Or you can find like that guy who's like out in a shack in the woods or whatever, yep. And there's that sort of sense of wonder of like, what, like, am I going into, is this going to be a side scrolling segment? Is this going to be like, what's this going to be like? There's like a sense of mystery to the overworld that's fun to explore.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't get enough. Like, this was like, and don't get me wrong, like I said, I had the original Zelda 2 and like as well, not the number 2. And I loved exploring that top-down masterpiece as well. That map is still fun to go around and spelunk around and see stuff, but it's like you said, seeing what you can in Zelda 2 is it's a very different style of game, obviously, but it's also a very different style of overworld, because you, like you said, you find a point on the map. Oh, what's this little patch of thing? Oh, wow, I found a heart container here. Oh, wait, what's this little cave over here? What's this? It's just great, man. I'll never get tired of it. Every time I play this game, I legitimately don't get tired of it. I did 2 full replays for this. I played it on NES and Famicom Disk System. Thank you, Nintendo Switch. And like, I love it, man. I played it back to back twice. I would never do that with any other awesome Zelda game.
I could totally see that with it. Like I could probably replay this over and over, I think. I do think some of what you said, maybe save it a little bit for more like what people are critical about the game.
Yeah.
But that I do think that idea of like something is always happening and it's always very like intense. It's usually very fast paced unless you're like in a town or something. Like I think that is something that and I sort of have like a theory on like the Zelda fan base that we can get into, but I think what people have come to like want from Zelda games, like combat and stuff like that. I know you have stuff about the combat or but I think that's become more superfluous and definitely like not something people want as much of from the Zelda series.
I agree. No, I think you're correct. I think you're absolutely correct. But like you said, we'll get there a bit later. But you were right. You want to just talk graphics real quick? Because I think this game is beautiful. beautiful. Like, holy shit. Like, it was very rich and detailed to me, or I guess still, that doesn't feel common to the time. Like, the top-down look of the original, like seeing like the moblins and Tektites and, you know, all the different enemies, and then like seeing them in Zelda 2, right, from the side view. Right, like you see a moblin, and it's like he's literally like throwing the boomerangs at. Oh, I gotta block these things. Like, oh my god, right? Or like any of those enemies, the Tektites that come out of a desert scene. If you get caught out there, you know, like that, you gotta make quick work of once you get the downward thrust, the best attack in video game history. Like you just. It's great, man. And like I said, I did play Zelda 2 first, but even like just comparing the two games, because I had both cartridges, I'm like, I love the way this looks way better in Zelda 2.
I love the first one. So I can't put that above, but
of course, that's fine.
I do. But I think actually my favorite, like a lot of my favorite artwork and renderings of the first one are like when in the official art, or like if you can find contemporary like third-party guides from the time, they draw it in like a very chibi sort of style, or Link's like a little guy and all the enemies are cute. That is,
I remember like the classic one of like Link chibi and like drinking a potion, right? Like, I remember that one from a manual.
That is how I picture that game typically, whereas this, I do think of it more as like a serious medieval fantasy looking sort of game, and it fits because the tone is like Link's a little bit, he's a few years older and stuff like that. And like the world does feel very rich. Like, I mean, you compared it to a bunch of NES games you played. Like when I was a kid, most of what I was playing was just like Mario or something like that, which look amazing. Actually, I mean, graphically they go toe to toe, obviously, but I'm with you. Like the worlds, a lot of the games I played weren't those type of exploration based worlds. Like you're a lot of going left to right, and maybe you can find secrets and stuff. But this game does feel like it feels like you exist, like other than like a traditional RPG. It does feel like you kind of exist in like an open world sort of game, especially like the towns adding to it. But that's also cool with the graphics, like going in and seeing like the way the different towns look. A lot of them, it's like they just change the colors and stuff like that, but they all feel distinct still, especially like based on where they exist in the map and like the surrounding area. So
they do. The towns to me are still like some of the best shit. I love it. Here's the thing. Again, Zelda games aren't necessarily known for towns. Usually there's like one or two, and that's kind of it. And that's fine. Right? It doesn't need to be about that, but like, that's what was so cool about like, God, I mean, it's been literally 30 years since I played Link to the Past. What is it? Is it Kakariko Village in Link to the Past? Okay, I wasn't sure which one it was. That shit was crazy because it was like this multi-screen, like, it's like this actual, like, really big town.
And I could see why it doesn't have like a dozen towns or whatever, like, because it's more detailed than like these towns. But now with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, there's like a ton of towns and they have a lot going on. I think it's nice to see that like return. I mean, some of the other Zelda games you get like each, like the Gorons and the Zoras will have their own little zones, but then there'll be just like a Kakariko Village, and if you take the one like in Twilight Princess, like 3 people live there. So it's like not that exciting.
Not really that exciting. I remember there's like a desert town, right, in Twilight Princess, where it's like
there's just like a Bokoblin base that you mess up. No NPCs or like fun stuff going on there other than killing a bunch of guys.
I think that was my least favorite part of Twilight Princess, like that desert stuff, actually. I just thought that was such a slog. Once you get past that, it gets more fun again, but I did not like that stuff. I'm trying to think of, again, you may not be any help for me on this, but like other games from this time that like have the same kind of town. Like, is there anything that comes close to this, basically, is what I'm saying. The closest thing I can think of is Wonder Boy 3, but that's just like the one town. So
most of the games I played, can't think of a town in, you know.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm thinking also like maybe like a later Wizards and Warriors, like like 2 or 3, maybe has like weird town. I don't know, man. It's just I guess what I'm trying to say is Zelda 2 did something that in 1988, mind you, that very few games were doing. It was kind of, I don't want to say pioneering. I'm not saying it's the first game to ever do this, but they did it in a way that really mattered, I think.
This was the first case. Like, in the first Zelda game, you would have like later dungeons that were a bit more obscure to find. You would get like a hint from an old man in one of the dungeons that would then lead to maybe another hint in the overworld that would lead to solving whatever the puzzle is in the overworld to get to the next dungeon, which I think is really cool. But this game takes it one step further, where you actually have what kind of feel like side quests, even though they're required. But like, you go to a town and someone needs you to do something for them, and you got to do it, and then that's like what you get, like, to get the key thing to get to the next dungeon, that's like a massive staple in the series now. Is like, there's the dungeons, but there's also the lead up quest to the dungeon.
So okay, so you know how when you get anything in Zelda 2, linked Zelda.
Oh, you did
almost called Link Zelda. Shit, wow!
All the Zelda fans have turned it off.
I know, right? It's like, goodbye. Link holds the object over his head. You know, the classic like thing. Mm-hmm. Guess what? The Famicom Disk System version of Zelda 2 does not have that animation. Link doesn't hold stuff over his head when you get it. So you know how like you get a key in like a dungeon, you have to like stab it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have to stab everything in Zelda 2.
Okay,
including like the glove or like the candle or whatever. You literally just do that, or like the heart container. There's no like animation. It goes that just doesn't exist. So I thought it was really funny that when you have to do the side quest, like, oh, my child is kidnapped, you have to stab the kid to like get the kid to like bring it back to like the town.
Maybe
it's like. It's really weird, but that's what you got to do to pick it up.
In the true proper sequel to this game, Wand of Gamelon and Faces of Evil, you have to stab people to talk to them as well.
Yeah,
so
you yeah, I forgot you have to do that in those games. I've obviously never played them, but I've seen them played. You know,
bangers, obviously. Yeah,
dude, those games have great music. They do.
Tony Trippy, shout out Tony Trippy.
You know, even when I was a kid, I thought the thing was funny in the towns when the lady who refills your life, she's like, please let me help you. Come inside. I was like, oh.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I understood that one.
This one's for the perverts, they say.
Yeah.
And when you get the magic, oh boy.
Oh baby, that's an experienced lady. I mean, I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah.
She magic. I don't really have anything else to say about graphics. You know, this is just like a weird little touch, but it's something I've always liked. Like when something dramatic happens, like you kill a boss and it has like the hit flashing and like it casts shadows on the wall.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Link's shadow. Yeah, I love that shit. It's great.
Happens when you die too, right? Or maybe it's just the flashing, you flash like black or something with the screen.
Yeah, you become a shadow. Shadow.
Okay.
Yeah. But obviously I'm playing these on Nintendo Switch, and obviously every further version removes all the flash and stuff like that. So, but it's still effective, you know, it's still a very cool like effect, even if you play it on there. But Nintendo post Poke Shock, they ain't fucking with any of that. So
I didn't even know that. Okay. Well,
yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, I would say as early as like Wii Virtual Console, they removed even maybe the collector's edition on GameCube. That Zelda 2, maybe they removed the flash on that too.
Well, I have I've got the original version. I'll have to fire that up and try to damage myself with it.
Yeah, whenever you die or whenever there should be flash, they removed all that stuff because of course reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, Man, great graphics in this game. I just love even just how big like the heart containers are and like the magic containers. I just love how like larger than life things feel, you
Yeah,
know?
chunky.
Yeah, I love it, man. It's just great stuff. Let's talk combat, because this is by far the Zelda game with the best combat. Sorry, it's just true, at least for me. Like, it's the only Zelda game where I actually look forward to fighting stuff. Like, even in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I'm not saying I dislike fighting stuff, but like,
Mm-hmm.
your weapon's gonna break, you gotta do something else with it. I'm not saying that's not fun. I'm not one of those people who say the breaking of the weapons is stupid. See, I'm already making fun of other people about another game.
Yeah,
I keep doing it. I'm sorry. But like, I just think Zelda 2 nails it. It's like a really simple skill set. You can stab or crouch and stab. You can block down or up, high or low, rather. And then you get like a couple of additional jumping attacks, the upward thrust and the downward thrust. And that's kind of it.
mm-hmm.
And out of those few things, it's legitimately like a combat masterpiece for its time. Like, it's crazy how fun it is.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be my favorite, but I do think it is probably up there for me in terms of like what's actually the most engaging. I actually like the first game a lot. Like
Okay.
I've grown very fond of that one, but yeah, I do think like, or like even A Link to the Past is cool because like the items, there's a wide variety of effectiveness with the items, you know, like in a lot more Zelda games, it becomes like you get like one or two ways to kill something, you know, and like there's some like fun little stuff you can do. But in A Link to the Past, it was like even with the bosses, you had a lot of options to fight them and stuff. It wasn't as cut and dry. But then once it moved into 3D, it got a little bit like where and obviously like just the Nintendo kind of laid off on the difficulty as much, like
Yeah.
Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. The combat isn't quite that engaging to me. Like it's not unfun, but it's honestly like the speed runs of it, and when I like, I don't necessarily speed run them, but I'll race them at the Zelda Dungeon Marathon. It's like the quickest way to play the game is to just like run by everything. And honestly, you're not with a lot of the rooms, a lot of the encounters, you're not missing much. Like it's
No.
not that exciting. It becomes more about like you get like those extra skills, but not because like you really need them against the enemies. It's really just more like how much more stylish do you want to kill these enemies? You know,
That's what it's about in Wind Waker for me, because it's like, as you know, it's like, it's very cool. You hit them with it has like orchestra hits, and it sounds like they make it sound very dramatic, right? And that's the cool part. It's not actually the combat. It's just like the dun 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 dun, you know, like that's very nice.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's really about like, oh, that was like really engaging as like a combat. It doesn't really need to be, but Zelda 2 is very different in that regard because it really is engaging.
It's very satisfying to get better at it and to like overcome the enemies, which yeah, a lot of the games don't ask that much of you.
No, they don't. But it's kind of like what you said about like Link to the Past being fun because like you have all the different like items to like, there's a lot of different ways to crack that nut. That's one thing I really did not like about Ocarina. It felt like I was like, okay, here's a boss. You have to do this very specific thing with this particular item, or you're not going to do anything. Like you better do it exactly this certain way, and that's it. And it's like, okay, well now I'm going to spend forever like figuring out what that is. So, I mean, I guess fine.
Yeah, that becomes like the kind of staple. I mean, obviously there's exceptions, and even that can be fun. I found, I mean, a lot of them in Ocarina do this for me, but Wind Waker does this really well, where the bosses aren't necessarily complicated, but like they're engaging and they're fun. They keep you moving, you know, like you can't. It's not like you can't just stand there and hack away at them. You do have to kind of. There is some gameplay there, but yeah, it's not necessarily challenging, but it's engaging, I would say.
It definitely is. But see, that's what I like about Zelda 2, because I feel like even just every basic bitch enemy, there's like always like a way to like really get to them. Like, I don't even remember what they're called, like the eyeballs, not the ones that fly around crazy, but the ones that kind of float around and then open their eye and then shut it and then float around a little more.
Yeah, what are those? Because I think I can only think of the MOAs, which are the other ones. But
yeah,
yeah,
those are wild. Yeah, then you have like the whiz robes where you like, you know, you have to use reflect to like hit their thing back at them, their little sound wave or whatever. Iron Knuckle, though, the variety of Iron Knuckles, boy, let me tell you, the first time I encountered one of those as a kid, oh my God, my brain lit on fire, because here's the thing, I'd never played anything like that. And like, honestly, to that point, I can't think of anything where you had to like literal sword play them and block what was coming at you high or low and also attack high or low. A lot of people credit Prince of Persia for like that kind of swordplay, and Prince of Persia is great, but that was after Zelda 2. It was like a year after.
Okay.
So if there's, again, I'm not trying to be the Nintendo invented everything guy, but like if there's something that has this kind of combat before Zelda 2, I don't know of it. This shit's crazy. It's still fun. It's always fun whenever I come back to it. That is always one of my favorite things to do to fight in a game, period.
Yeah, I mean, just for once, because that was definitely an aspect of it that took a lot for me to get the hang of it. But yeah, now I do have that feeling of like it doesn't really even matter if I'm progressing, because just like fighting the enemies is a good time.
Yeah, it's just so much fun. Oh, before I actually got to Dark Link for the first time, and like I said, I only beat it for the first time in the collector's edition, I read in Nintendo Power the Dark Link trick. You just stay in the corner.
Yes.
And you crouch and you stab. I saw that in Nintendo Power and I never forgot it. So I was like, okay, if I ever get there, I'm going to do it. I didn't know it'd be like 15 years after the fact, but like I did eventually get there, and I did. It's like, oh, I remembered that Nintendo Power from years back. I know how to beat you, Dark Link.
I don't know where this technique, like that's obviously, that's an iconic like video game, like not Easter egg, but fun fact, I guess. The one that I think I learned it from someone at ZD, but I'm sure someone else figured out this before, but there's like a reliable way to kill the Iron Knuckles where you like jump, and as you're coming down, like they must always put their shield down at some point, and if you swing your sword at the right spot, you're almost always guaranteed to hit them.
Yes,
and I'm not like perfect at that, but I usually would avoided it because I usually felt like fighting them the kind of just traditional way was more effective. But this time around, I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to do that more often. And it's a really satisfying technique to try and pull off, like hitting it at the right time and just landing a hit on them feels really satisfying.
Yeah, if you can hit that, I have done that before, and I discovered that at some point myself, but I was like, this is a lot of and I kept jumping. I kept jumping into them, so it's like, I don't know, like it's tough. Mm-hmm. I'm sure if you can get that perfectly down, it's very effective. But I guess I just never put in the work on that technique.
But that's like it does. I've noticed, like if you can get that skill of like actually facing them head on and like blocking and attacking, which I struggle with a little bit more even at this point.
Okay.
I think you're better off in the long run, because when you get to like the blue ones, they're throwing the stuff at you, and like if you're doing the jump there, you're gonna usually take damage on the way down. So yeah, it's effective to a point.
Yeah, it's tough because like especially after you always hit the blue one, he goes berserk and starts throwing like 10 of them at you, like, you know. So it's like you gotta wait that out.
He's a pain.
And then try again. Yeah, it's tough. But yeah, I have tried that technique before.
Fine time.
Let's talk magic, because this to me is kind of obviously goes hand in hand with the combat, but it's not just like utility. I feel like a lot of these things in like later Zelda games, it's like you said, oh, I need to use this magic thing to get in here. The magic in Zelda 2 is part of the combat and part of the gameplay, interwoven in a way that I don't think any other Zelda game does. Like, and I love that the combat focused ones like shield or jump, I love that they make you ask yourself on the fly decisions, which is always my favorite thing in a game. Like, for instance, like shield, right? Shield halves the damage that you take. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if you're coming up against a tough enemy, you only have a couple pips left. You may not have that much magic left. What do? Are you going to pop the magic to like, okay, I'm going to make sure I survive this encounter? Are you going to like believe in yourself and say, hey, I don't need that. I don't need shield. I'm going to beat this guy and get to like the next screen because I know there's like a thing. Or, you know, do what I do as a kid and like, okay, I'm going to jump in this pool of lava. I'm going to die. And then I'm going to come back with like full life and like magic or whatever. I'll just spend a life on this so I can get past this. Like, there's all sorts of, all three of those things are valid, right?
Yes.
So like you get to choose the way you want this to play out, which is just great. I love making those decisions in a video game, and the fact that a Zelda game does that, or at least one of them does, that's just excellent, man. I love stuff like that in games.
Playing the game of like balancing, like because with the life spell where you heal, that's also a factor, and there's always like a fun balancing act to play with. Like, okay, the life spell, it uses way more magic than the shield. But I probably should use that now. But that's going to lower my magic. So hopefully I find like a red jar, or there's times where you come across the red jar and it's like, okay, well now I can heal and then stab the red jar and get more magic and do shield. Like, there's a fun like balancing act at play. And that's something that I think that would be good for like people who aren't as like comfortable with the game and aren't as familiar, is to like kind of actually like pay a little bit more attention to your resource management. And like early on you don't get the life, but you can get it after the first dungeon if you want. And once you get that, like, you know, that becomes like, to me, that's like just as fun as the combat, is just like balancing your magic levels.
I 100% agree.
There's a couple of small times where in almost every playthrough where I do come to a spot where I'm like, okay, well, I need the jump spell to get here, and there's nowhere else I can go, and I have no magic and like no health. Yeah, I'm just gonna like let something kill me. And sometimes
and that's part of the game too. But that's also like part of the fear, right? Because you're thinking like, oh, what if I have to use fairy or something that takes a lot of magic, right? So you have to like, it's like, should I even use? So your brain's thinking like, oh, should I not pop shield here because I might not have enough to use fair? You know, those are the things you have to think of. Now, when you know the game, you don't maybe have to think about it that much. But I know the game. I played it a million times. I don't remember every single instance where I have to use like jump or fairy or something, or God forbid spell, which you use like once.
Spell. That's what makes these games a bit more playable, or like replayable, I think, for me, and like a lot of the 2D ones in general, where the dungeons are a bit more lengthy and open-ended, and it's not like you're kind of following through a path, is that like I love, you know, I'm obviously happy to play new versions or whatever, but like I like the idea of going, like, I'm going back to this game that I love, but I'm still going to get lost, and I'm still going to get challenged. And I think that's what, like, I know there's parts in the dungeon where there's like a fairy, like a puzzle, a navigational puzzle where you have to use fairy or jump or whatever, but it's not one I've like ran a million times, so I don't have it all memorized. And I love that aspect of it, of like, I can play this game that I kind of know, but like, I'm still going to get a bit of a challenge here.
But yeah, I like, there's other stuff too, like using jump for like platforming insurance, not even necessarily like to get up on something you have to get on, but like if there's a place with like some careful platforming where it's like you really want the insurance that you're going to make that gap, you can always use jump too to make sure that you're going to do that.
There's there's some parts where it's not even like it's like almost necessary, even though it doesn't seem like it is. Like there's parts where it is necessary, but then there's times where it's like you probably should use it no matter what. And I think that might be something that trips people up a little bit, because I feel like in traditional Zelda dungeon, it's like you get the item and then it's like here's all the good places to use it, which is satisfying in its own way. But this is like you like it's a little bit more out of the box. Like using jump, you kind of gotta like figure out for yourself, like where do you need to use it beyond just the too high
Right.
ledges.
Yeah, because there's some stuff like on the road to the final palace where it's like it's some really tight jumps where it's like you don't want to, and there's lava, you don't want to lose a life there, so it's like you need to get to that palace. So it's like, you know what? I'm just going to pop jump here and just make it, I'll deal, forget it. It's not worth like losing a life just because I don't make this. It's not a pixel perfect jump or anything, but it's tight, right? You got to be on it. So I'd rather just use jump and not worry about it.
Yeah, there's a horrible room in one of the one of the later dungeons. I think we can talk about it more with the difficulty, but that's one where I wish like I could tell everyone playing it like use jump here. You're gonna want to use it.
Well, let's talk about difficulty a little bit, because we should go through dungeon design a bit, because we don't have to say too much, but like I just really love every palace. I love the how do I say it? I love the simplicity of just going left or right. Obviously from a top-down perspective, you can go up, down, left, or right typically, or there's no like bombing walls. There's no like, there's like one false wall in a dungeon where like some NPC in some town tells you about, like, clearly. Yes. And so like you're prepared for that, but like there's not a whole lot of trickery in that regard. In Zelda 2, it's more like just literally like navigating. I don't even want to say a maze. It's just the eternal question of left or right.
These are like, to me, like what I like about, I've been doing a series that it's kind of been on hiatus where I'm like ranking all the dungeons, and I kind of have these ones towards the bottom just because I feel like they find a slightly better balance in like A Link to the Past is one where I feel like they did it well, or some of those types of games. But this game did add verticality to the series. It kind of had to. Like there are parts where you're falling down from one, you have to like go to one spot and fall down to like get to another part of the level. And I do just in general like this style more than kind of how the new games where they had kind of gone with dungeon design, in that like it is about more figuring out like where to go and like actually like looking at the map and being like, I need to go here. Like that false wall one you mentioned, like beyond the NPC telling you about it, there is a part in that dungeon where you see a key like on another side of a wall. And it's like, I need to get there to get that key. And if you kind of like make a map and trace it out, it's like, it seems like there's nowhere to go, but the NPC tells you there's a false wall, and you see that key in a room with like a dark nut statue, and and that false wall is behind a dark nut. So there's some kind of like cool, like visual, like hints there. And I don't know, that's what I love about a lot of the classic Zelda dungeons. It's about like, you need to find the keys to unlock the doors, and you need to figure out like you're here and you need to figure out how to get here. Whereas like they still do those types of dungeons, but like it'll be like leaning in the other direction where it's really just about like, okay, you've got this cool item, now we're going to go on a romp with this item,
Yeah. And you don't really get that in Zelda 2. I guess the dungeon where you get the glove, there is one part where you do have to knock out the like bricks to get to like the boss or whatever. So there is one thing where it's like you get the item in the dungeon, you use it, but it's like in other places, like the stuff you get in the items you get in the dungeons, they're not really used there. Like the candle, that's not really for the palace. That's for like other caves and stuff so you can explore. Or the raft, that's literally just for like going across. You don't use like the raft or the hammer or the candle like in those scenes, so they're not really like part of the,
And that's That's honestly that's about as innovative as the first one is. Like, there's really only like one dungeon in the first game where it's like you're stuck until you get the step ladder. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you need to get the item to progress to the next dungeon, much like this game. But then a lot of the items you can just straight up they're optional, and you can miss them regardless of if they are or not. And this game's like that too. But yeah, I think it's got about as much going on in terms of like I feel like the item. I think A Link to the Past and Link's Awakening even more so. That really solidified like the formula,
Yeah.
like of that. So at this time, like it's doing about as much as the original in terms of like items and dungeons and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Because yeah, you're right. It did become more like get item, use item to get to next thing, use item
Mhm.
in dungeon to do whatever, and then like which is fine, which is perfectly
It
fine,
it actually can have a similar effect as the key thing, because like in Link's Awakening, it's phenomenal. There's a lot of spots where you'll see like, oh, I need something to get past here. Like you'll see it dotted all over the dungeon, and then when you get it, it's about like, okay, and now I have to remember what rooms those were in and how to get back there. But
Hmm.
then beyond that, it started really with Ocarina, but like games beyond that, Twilight Princess is really like this, where you get the item and it's just like you're just on a roller coaster to the end, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly. Which again, that's its own type of fun. There's
Yes.
nothing wrong with that. It's just that, I do like the more open-endedness. I forgot. It's been so long since I played the original Zelda. I forgot that a lot of those items are optional in those dungeons. You really don't have to get them. And now that I think about it, as a kid, I don't think I got most of them. I really
Yeah.
don't, because I don't think I understood that every dungeon had an item. I don't think I actually like grasped that.
There's some crazy ones. Like at the first dungeon, you can get the boomerang and the bow, but the bow you can't use until you buy arrows from a shop, but you need the bow to beat the game, but not until like level 6 or something, or 7 or
Yep.
something. 6, I think, when Goma is the boss and you have to shoot it in the
Yes.
eye. And it's like, that one's just like, maybe they should have put the bow in that dungeon. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's so
maybe,
weird.
but that's the thing. As a kid, I always took the boomerang. The boomerang was cool as fuck to me. So like, I
Hell
wanted,
yeah.
I wanted the boomerang. So I always took it. I was like, I'll get the bow
That
later. I don't care.
that would be my dream, is like they add like do a follow up to this and like add a little bit of items, like I think there could be some fun. I guess it would kind of change what the game is about, but I think that would probably speak to a modern Zelda fan base a little bit more if you could hook shot or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you want to talk music real quick? I mean, it's a
Yeah.
phenomenal soundtrack, but like, it also, I'm sure everyone knows this. The music between our NES version and the Famicom Disk System version are very different.
Yeah,
It's not completely different, but it is very different. Most notably, Goo, the battle screen
yes,
is
which
very different.
I knew it was different, but I thought it was in the same way as the original, where it just sounded like, the
No, it's a
instruments.
completely different song.
Yeah, so I listened to the battle version, like you mentioned, and I was like, whoa, okay, this is almost a different vibe entirely.
Hmm. Yeah, so imagine hearing that spelunking through Death Mountain and going through the different, like, finding your way through the maze and hearing that song over and over versus ours is better, okay? I'm just going to
Yes.
say it.
Big time.
Ours is better. I wish Nintendo would acknowledge it, though, because they've never acknowledged our US battle screen song. They've acknowledged the Japanese one. They used it for the boss theme in Minish Cap, I think.
Oh, did they? I didn't even know
Yeah,
that.
I think
Okay.
it's like the same. I think it's a remake of that song. So like
What the
they've
hell?
recognized that one, but not even in like a Smash or something. They've never recognized our battle screen song. I feel like that would be so
What's the
badass
problem?
if they would. I don't know. Maybe they don't know it exists. Maybe they don't care. Maybe someone else made that music and just whatever. Now I'm sure it was all made in house for our version, but you know what I mean. It's just I think they just recognize the quote unquote original one, and that's kind of it. But yeah, I really wish that could show up in Nintendo lore again.
This is
but it's kind of a great soundtrack. It's great.
it's perfect. I think it's hard. It's unfair to compare it to games that have to, in the series, they have to have like 400 songs or whatever. But like every single song on the soundtrack. It's good. It's better than the original game in most ways. But yeah, the title screen, the town. I mean, having towns and a town theme is already a big step up. But
love the town theme.
Yeah. Just every song is perfect in this game for sure.
It's so good. The boss theme too. I mean, man, it's just the final palace theme. My God.
Oh,
ooh, that's a classic.
Even just the regular one as well is cool for all the other ones that I mean, people cite this one now, but that they used it for the temple level in Melee, where they did that.
They did
cool version with the drums and everything. Like,
it's great. It's a great version. Sick. You know, that's something Melee, I mean, as old as that game is, and like as much to do as people make about it, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think it's a really good game, but come on. Point is, I think the soundtrack in the game is spectacular. I think every single like song that they had a take on hits, every single one. It's so good. I think that's something people forget about that game.
The earlier like games like that where they put Link and stuff, it was fun because there was a lot less like series lore to go off of, you know, like for even at that time, like Ocarina of Time became kind of like the default Zelda in like wider popular how people saw it. But like they have a ton of games to like add more stuff in, so you did see stuff like, especially because it was like side scrolling gameplay, you got, you know, the downward thrust was in Melee, or just on a similar note to that, I think one thing I love is that the Zelda, the cartoon came out not long before Zelda 2 was set to come out, I believe. But it actually, you know, it's based upon the first game, but you start to see there's like enemies that are in the second game, like exclusively, that they put in the show and everything. So I really like seeing those things where they actually, like, it's a specific Zelda 2 nod. We don't get that as often. I guess Echoes of Wisdom brought back some enemies that were only in Zelda 2. They did have the Moas, the fly around, and they had the scorpion dudes that are in there.
You're right. Yeah, I never thought about how they never appeared in anything. Oh God, those things used to scare the piss out of me when I was. Oh God, I didn't even understand. Yeah, I was like, oh, and then it just randomly the fire would just come out of that tail, it just without warning.
Fine time.
Speaking of scaring the piss out of me, I guess as we're wrapping up here, the Return of Ganon screen. Oh my God. That was the scariest shit I had ever seen when I was a kid. I would keep track of my life so diligently. If I knew it was on my last life and I died, I would get up and turn the TV off so I didn't have to see it. I'd wait 5 seconds and I'd turn it back on so I did not have to see that shit. Or I'd close my eyes or something. I did not want to see that screen. It was freaky, man.
Well, when people want to get mad at you for something you say on the podcast, they should just picture young Dre getting scared of the Return of Ganon screen.
It's just scary. You know, the Famicom Disk System version doesn't have that. It doesn't have the image. It says Return of Ganon, the end. But it's just a black screen. It doesn't have
that's lame. Yeah. So we got the better version by far.
Yeah, we got the better version. We straight up did. Yeah. Oh God, the way you level up I don't have time to get into it, but the way you level up in Famicom Disk System version 2 is just like way different and like harder.
Oh, really?
Because you can actually de-level. You have to... Okay, let's say your attack is 5, your life is 4, and your magic is 4. If you game over, your attack will go down to 4. It's going to go back down to the lowest common denominator. So you have to, like, before you die, you have to make sure everything's at the same level.
Oh.
Or else, like, you'll lose it. Yeah.
It's tough.
Okay. It's tough. Yeah, so you better make sure. That. So if you get out of a dungeon, you barely scrape by, you don't have any health, and you're on 0 lives, and you leveled up 2 things and not one of them, you better find a way to do that last one before you die.
Oh, yeah. That reminds me, too, of something I forgot to mention, but like that, in our version, you can, like, skip a level up if you want, and be like, oh, if I hold out, which is... like in a lot of, I think in the ZD guide, they suggest like early on leveling, like not leveling your magic too much early on, because you only really get the shield spell in the first dungeon and focus on your other stuff. And I love that as a strategy. It adds to that like push and pull of like, ooh, do I want to hold out? Or will I die? You know, like, okay, I'm going to go for it, you know, or even when
exactly the risk reward. Yeah, it's great.
When you beat the bosses too, like you get an automatic like max out on your XP. So, or actually it's not when you beat them, it's when you put the crystal in the pedestal.
When you put the crystal in, yeah.
So that becomes a strategy of like, ooh, I'm actually like really close. Maybe I won't go to the boss yet, or maybe I beat the boss and go kill a couple enemies or bounce on some bubbles.
Or the boss, or if you're really close, the boss will give you that 200 or 300 EXP. That'll push you, and then the crystal will push you again.
It's
so if you want to play it that way, yeah, there's a lot of strategies to play for leveling up in ours. Yeah. For some reason, I don't know. I never really thought about this. You think it's really funny for some reason. The ending screen says "Thanks a million." It never really occurred to me. I guess that was weird, but it is weird.
There's like a weird, like, I think the original game has this too a little bit. I think or like we've seen this with some of those Mario games where like at the end they kind of let down their guard a bit and be like, yeah, this was a rip roaring good time, wasn't it? Like, or like in Mario where they're like, this was a show, you know, they have the curtains or whatever. The original does that too, because it doesn't say thanks a million. It's not that silly, right. But like you get your death theme, but then they add like a jazzy swing to it all of a sudden, and you're like, oh, what? Like, okay, I didn't expect like a show here at the end, but yeah. Oh, and they kiss in the end of this too, by the way.
Oh, they do, behind the curtain as the curtain comes down. Yep.
Again, the Zelda who's been sleeping for who knows how long.
Yeah, a totally different Zelda from the other one. Is spell used for anything besides the scary long door in the one town? I don't know what else you can use spell for. Does it? Oh. I think I'm having a memory now. As a kid, I used to experiment with this. Doesn't it turn some enemies into bits?
I think it might turn like there's the big one you just hit with your sword and it turns into it. But yeah, there's right. Yeah, it does turn certain enemies into bits. I can't remember what, but yeah, other than that, I don't think there's much use for it.
I do like, now obviously I didn't clock this at the time, I do like that they like straight up took the blue and red slime from Dragon Quest. Like, it's basically that. It's right. So weird that it's like essentially like no different.
Well, that's one thing that's weird too, is like there'll be like enemies that were in Zelda 1, I guess because we didn't have this thing where we keep naming them the same thing, except some enemies are, but like, what was wrong with, there's bits and bots in this, but yeah. What we had Zol and Gel in the first one, you know, or we had Dark Nuts, but now in this they're Iron Knuckles, and it's like, why do we do this?
I don't know. It is weird. I do like Iron Knuckle more. I always forget that I almost forgot for a long time, an earlier version of our notes had Dark Nut. I was like, oh wait, they're Iron Knuckle. That's right.
Right. Yeah.
So we got anything else? Oh, tell me your personal Zelda rankings. I promise to make you do this on the air. I need to know. You don't have to go through every game, but place Zelda 2 in your personal Zelda rankings for me.
So we usually do a thing at ZD every year where like everyone submits their rankings and they kind of like put it into a big old list. And I think so. I usually am quite frequently having to rank it. And then we also did a series where me and my buddy Moss went through and like we created criteria to score for all the games, and we gave them scores. And I think in that era I was giving it like it was like just out of my top 10, I would say, like, okay, because it's a game, and I guess there's like 17 mainline games, so I guess that seems pretty low, but for me it's just I honestly love a lot of them. Like any of my top 10, if you're like, this is like the greatest game, I would be like, hell yeah. But I think after replaying it again, like it definitely, it's not a top 5 for me, but I feel like it's in my top 10 of the Zelda games. I do like, honestly, my 4 favorite games right now are the other 4 of the first 5 games. You know what I mean? Like, I might just be a little bit like stuck in my age, I guess, or something. I don't know.
No, I think that's perfectly valid. I think they're all great games. So, like, I mean, well, not Ocarina, but like the first, the first 4 definitely are. So, like, yeah, I definitely look. If you just say it's better than Ocarina, I'll
no, I can't do that.
Okay,
I can't.
fine.
I have a very strong fondness for that game, for sure.
Yuck. Okay, I don't even want to do the second half of the show. This is over. Goodbye.
We'll have to get into that sometime. We'll have like a formal debate. Maybe we'll get a moderator or something.
Oh my god.
I've said this to you. Actually, this is not related, but I've said this to you though. I appreciate your take on it, just as someone who's coming from it from like the angle of like you played the games before and then that came out and it wasn't for you, because this happens to Zelda 2 with the fan base, but it starts to happen a little bit with Ocarina of Time, where, you know, someone's favorite game was Twilight Princess because they grew up with that game, and then they played Ocarina and they're like, this feels old, and it's like, you like it because of nostalgia goggles. And I'm like, I usually feel like those people don't like it because they have their own nostalgia goggles, but it's about a newer thing. But they feel like because they like the newer thing, it's inherently better. You know what I mean? So
exactly, yeah. But this show tries to put away the nostalgia goggles completely. Look, we all have our biases, and that's fine. And would I sit here and say I don't have any affinity for Zelda 2 because I played as a kid? No, that's absurd. Of course I do. But that's not the reason why I'm here talking about it now. I have no problem saying that thing I liked as a kid actually sucks. That happens all the time. You know, there's plenty of games I liked back then that are not good. Zelda 2 is not one of those. This game is still great. I still go back and play it. And it's better. I like it more because I'm an adult and I understand it, and I can handle the difficulty now. I actually like it more than I did before. So,
yeah, I feel you there. Like, for me, it's less about like, I think there's, you know, obviously everyone's like a little subjective, and you know, you can try not to be, but I think just in general, like there's sort of a thing that people don't often like think about, which is like what no matter what era it is, like you could be just more inherently more comfortable with a certain style of game because you like, for example, I always use this on our show, but I have a friend who could whip you at GoldenEye, and he's like a god gamer at it, and he played it a bunch when he was a kid. Now you go only one generation later and you play Halo against him, and he can barely walk around. He's that person from that old Alien review that doesn't comprehend dual axis controls.
My God. Wow.
But, you know, I say, okay, that's what he knows and he got good at. But we've decided that dual axis shooting controls are just inherently the best objectively, which there might be some truth to that, but I think
there's definitely some truth to that. I never, even back before that shit existed, I never thought GoldenEye felt completely comfortable in my hands. I've always felt that way. So
it's definitely awkward for sure. I mean, especially if there was already at that time an alternative control scheme elsewhere. But I think that's just my example of like, well, to that guy, like, what are you going to convince him that the other one's better? Like, he just straight up can't play Halo, and he doesn't really have that much of an interest in it. But I guess that's where then you cross the line of like, well, I guess he's not online, like, complaining about people who like Halo. But I think it goes both ways.
No, he's not. But it's also like, at some point you have to say, like, are you actually like, how can you say this is the best if you can't even play Halo? You can't even control the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not really going to take your word for it. Like, you can only play this one thing. Of course you think it's the best, right?
Yes.
So
that's right. And that person wouldn't go that far, obviously. But yeah, that's something that's a great point about like what you like, if you're going to bring that again, that's why I appreciate where you come at it from Ocarina of Time compared to others, because it's like, well, you have to at least try to approach the subject material, or, you know, like you have to have some type of like understanding of it, and so I think that happens a lot with honestly, not even just this game, but I think a lot of the Zelda games, particularly like a lot of the 2D ones, especially like the older ones, like they kind of get swept under the rug a bit because people don't uh they don't want to seem to understand what they're going for.
Yeah, it's just it's frustrating because I just feel like if people just put their hands on stuff, if they just play stuff,
Mm-hmm.
if they really just sit down and play, I think they will get somewhere. I sometimes really do think it's a factor of like, they want something to be the certain way and it's never going to be that way, so it's automatically this sucks, instead of being like, meet the game where it's at, understand where it's coming from, whether it's an old game or new game, and in the case of an old game, think about the reasons why it was made that particular way,
Yeah,
and try to approach it that way, because I feel like that's the only fair thing to do.
that might be good to like, because I could sort of, obviously like the Zelda community isn't like a monolith, and I only interact with like some subset of it, and I don't know how other people feel, but I think a lot of the overall perception of the game, it does come from that lack of understanding, which I kind of relate to, because going back to like when I first played it, it is like, so like at the time the game reviewed just great, like people loved
Mm-hmm.
it, and then it, like I didn't really know about it, and then it came out. By the time it came out, there was Wind Waker, there was Ocarina of Time, and I was playing these other games, and like when I fired it up for the first time, it just was like, and again, it was just like, it wasn't reading a manual, it wasn't like reading about the game, it was just like kind of how you started to play games then, where it just became expected that you turn on the game and it would tell you everything you need to know about it.
Yep.
So I was playing
And
it
this,
young, and
yeah.
this game throws it all at you. And I think like all those other games you mentioned, that it does like the side scrolling worlds better than, like some, like I know some of them because I played NES, but a lot of people like slightly younger than me, who grew up like even more so with like, again, Twilight Princess or Wind Waker, or later games, they just don't even they don't even know what games necessarily at that
Right.
time were like. And so it's that thing again where like I think they grew up in a, like they almost don't even have the like, they need someone to like be like, point them in the right direction, because I'll even
Mm-hmm.
see people like, I'm going into this and I'm not going to read anything, I'm not going to look up anything, which you can do, but I think it helps
I
to have
don't
some
think that
tips,
yeah,
and like,
because like back then, I mean, we know the first Zelda is like it was designed at a time where other people would have the game and you would share stuff. Hey, I went to the graveyard and I pushed this thing and then something happened. What? Let me try that. So they go home and then they try that and then that spreads. That's how we learned to play Zelda. I had that experience, right?
mm,
I heard from my friends on the playground, hey, in level 4, I found this item when I went to this one room and pushed this. What? Right? I didn't find that. So let me go back there and try that. That's how we did it. We don't really have that experience anymore. We're now in the era of like game FAQs and like finding out stuff online, which again, that's also fine. There's nothing wrong with using a guide for the game, but you're never going to beat the original Zelda by like not knowing anything. You were
yeah,
expected to know stuff. You weren't expected to figure out everything on your own. And that's not an experience you can really have nowadays because it's not 1986 anymore.
they would put the guide in like the Nintendo Power,
Yeah,
like, yeah,
exactly. Yeah, because you have to do that nowadays. Like there's a series of games that are re-releasing. It's a project called Egg Console, where they re-release PC 88 and PC 98 and MSX games on like
mm,
Nintendo Switch on PC and stuff. And one of the games they release is High Glide. And they have a guide. They always have a guide with those old games because you'll never figure it out. I remember I was flipping through the digital guide and they said, hey, to find the third fairy or whatever you need to beat the game, go to this tree and like wait for 5 seconds. It was this very specific thing you would never do on your own. And they just told you that in the guide because it's like, you're never going to figure that out. in the year of our Lord 2025. So it's
Right.
like they need to just tell you that. Now, I'm sure back in the day, maybe there was hints, or maybe there was like a Famitsu like thing where it's like, hey, like in some magazines where it's like, hey, you can do this, or you'd have to hear about it from your friends. That's not going to happen anymore.
Right.
So they just need to tell you. So that's part of game design, social game design, if you will, that's kind of lost. But I'll get into this when we get into our difficulty section. I feel like some people are accepting of some stuff in some games because it's like lore, and then other stuff where it's like of lesser known games where it's like, well, this sucks because I don't know what to do.
Yeah. To this game, it's even down to like just little things of like telling people like, oh, if the enemy hits you when you're on a path, like you don't have to fight them, or like if you just like little tiny tidbits like that you could, you can realize after like on accident, but like some stuff like that I think would be good if you could convey that to people. Like like when I first beat it, I like back in the day, I like kind of hugged a walkthrough, and that wasn't an ideal experience either. I think there's like a middle ground that I think people could find out, that if they would just like talk to you about it, and you could give them little tips to be like, oh, this makes it a little bit, you can kind of do this, like it would increase their enjoyment of it. Don't make it harder on yourself, or like, obviously you want to have some challenge and some, unknown, but yeah, you can find a balance.
That's one of the reasons why me and Steve, whenever we do the Nintendo Classics shows, that's why we always advocate for having the manuals on Nintendo Classics, which they don't have.
Yes. So a big part of like succeeding in this game from like from the get-go is trying to actually like the game's not going to necessarily, it does have things where it'll teach you via failure, but a lot of times, like even just to get in the door, you gotta like do a little bit of research, figure out how it works, which is, that's something I find fun on Flashback 64, is like sometimes there is like we'll play a weird game that was trying something different, and part of the fun is just figuring out how does this game work. Whereas like I feel like people who've gone back to it, much like I did on collector's edition, they kind of have an expectation about how all games should work. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's more become more standardized. So I think that's a big part of that.
That is a big part of that. Back then, things were a bit more experimental of like, hey, we're just going to make it this way. Why? I don't know. That seems like a good idea. Right? Versus like like you said, the standardization.
One way that I think that this also trips people up is and this speaks to the difficulty a little bit more, is that with Zelda games, by the time this got re-released on not just collector's edition but Game Boy Advance, they had become very, like we mentioned with Wind Waker, it's not hard. There's a whole mechanic where the parry mechanic in that, or whatever, in Wind Waker, which is really just wait for the A button to come on the screen, hit it, you kill the guy. Nothing crazy. And Zelda kind of became, it wasn't like your Kirby or Yoshi game, but it became like a lot of Nintendo games. It's not, it's kind of like helping you through the game a little bit, which is that's fine if people like that. I mean, I like, again, plenty of those games, but I think people are a bit more conditioned from this era to associate like dying with like the worst thing that could happen to you in a game, which it's just not, like part of the half the fun that you're supposed to have in A Link to the Adventure of Link is what you mentioned earlier, of just like running around, getting in fights and stuff like that. It's not just the destination, but it's the journey, the journey, and like the
journey,
just like walking around the world and like mixing it up with guys is like a crucial part of the game, and dying and going back and leveling up, like that's what's fun. And it never feels grindy, but I think,
although you can grind if you really want to, you could play it that way. But like, it's only going to help you so much. You're still going to have to make that jump over that pit, or you're going to die. No amount of leveling up is going to save you from that.
yes.
Right? So at some point, you have to play the game, you know? All right. I think it's time to get into the defense portion of this show. On the other side of this bumper, I'm going to take a sip of this Arizona iced tea right now. I have very,
delicious.
Very nice. Look at this can. Still 99 cents at my store, by the way.
Whoa, wow.
I know.
That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah, I'm holding one right now. I'm going to have a bit of this. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, as you can tell by the runtime of this episode, we are about to end it right here. Sorry about that, we just talked way too long about Zelda II, which is good, but we didn't want to overload you all at once, so we're going to split this into 2 parts. So this first part was obviously us talking about why we love Zelda II. Tune back in next week where we're going to talk about the criticisms that people have against Zelda II, and we're going to largely defend it against those criticisms. So, yeah, hope you enjoyed this first part. See you next week.
We'll see you next time on Fine Time.